I'm sharing with a number of my colleagues in the opening contributions.
Right,
I move the motion. Minister, it is said that education is not preparation for life, but education is life itself. And there's very few issues that is more important to the Labour Party than that of education. And as we rise today, and as we speak on a motion on education, we think of our recently departed colleague, Niamh Brannock, who was a trailblazer in the field of education. Minister, it would be unfair of the Labour Party to say of you as a minister that you haven't had your successes, because you have. And I feel it's important for us in opposition, when a minister achieves and has achievements, we will recognise that, and we want to work with you in many of your endeavours. However, unfortunately, we have to today point to a number of failures. And failures partly because of planning, partly because of lack of vision, that are seeing school communities suffer, individual students suffer, and parents suffer as well. On the top of our list, unfortunately, Minister, is the issue of school buildings. 58 school communities that got devastating letters to tell them that the school building project that they were so invested in isn't going to happen. We're getting confusing messages between the Taoiseach last week saying that they will be recommenced this year. Yourself can't make that commitment, and the Taoiseach, it appears, has resigned from that position he had last week. There was no increase in the capital budget last year in the budget, which surely should have foreseen the escalating costs that have resulted in these 58 school projects being stalled, and we still don't have the list of 58 schools. Minister, school places. My colleague Mark Wall in Kildare says outside of housing, the ability to get a school place for your child is at the top of the list of concerns that parents have. You still won't help the Labour Party pass our bill that would remove the elitist provision in the School Admissions Act that allows for 25% of places to be kept over for the children or the grandchildren of past pupils, and a elitist measure brought in because of the lobbying power of the private school sector. Let's talk about school transport. Again, a welcome measure, something that we supported. But, Minister, you have to accept that it was shambolic when rolled out, and we cannot see those scenes again. And can you ensure us that we won't see those scenes again of children left on the side of the road, most acutely in my colleague Sean Sherlock's constituency? Special education classes, still hearing from parents, can't be assured of a place that they would have in September for the most acutely vulnerable children, especially those with autism. And we want to congratulate, as a party, Irish International James McLean and his courageous statements this week of his own diagnosis, the diagnosis of his daughter Willow Lilly, and I think will help to break through many of the stigmas that are attached to the issue of autism. We want a status report at the end of this month in relation to special education classes, special education provision for children with additional needs, and we want movement on the national autism strategy. We have been calling for a national autism strategy for years, because we stand with those parents who are absolutely exhausted from dealing with a very challenging diagnosis in their own families, that are expected to be able to turn to the state for help, support and compassion, but then realised they had to go to war with the state for any sort of provision, for basic interventions, even for an assessment. We want to stand with the special needs assistants who work with these children every single day, but have a legacy of disrespect that they have had to break through over the last number of years, and only because they unionised and in mass numbers joined the force of trade union have they actually had some breakthrough. But again, Minister, your department is telling me through parliamentary questions that the allocation publication for this year will not be out again. It will be in a similar time frame from last year, which was the last date in May, which again shows absolutely no respect for special needs assistants who are holding schools together and often holding families together. So we stand absolutely with our special needs assistants. On the Leaving Cert, Minister, and again, I can't place all the blame with you in relation to the Leaving Cert, because there are forces who are quite conservative who don't want to see change. But I believe you do want to see change, and you did offer some solutions as to how we can take away that burden from students at the end of 6th year. However, the activism and energy of Leaving Cert students through those pandemic years, and Minister, you did listen to them, and you did respond to them, and you did platform them, and that is to your credit. But we have to break through now and have a radical change to the Leaving Cert, which is essentially the same exam as I did it almost 30 years ago. On DEIS, on disadvantage, Minister, it is not, I know you will say that you have an historic investment in DEIS, you'll say it is 37 million that you put into the DEIS programme. It is not going to benefit acutely disadvantaged students by making a quarter of the schools in Ireland having DEIS status. We need to have a re-evaluation of the most acutely disadvantaged schools, to have an extra designation for those who are acutely disadvantaged, as I've described, and return again to that vision from Niamh Brannock of 15-1 that she had in her Breaking the Cycle scheme. We have to return to the vision of free education, which we speak to so often in these houses. And again, Minister, you have had a success. You are going to have free school books in primary school from September, and we congratulate you on that. But we have to move further. We need to ban voluntary contributions. We need to have free school books at second level. We need to make sure that no parent in this republic is worried about having an interface with the school because they're going to be asked for money. And that is what happens. Less likely to go to the school gate, less likely to go to a parent-teacher meeting, less likely to be involved in the Parents' Association, which is effectively a fundraising body, because they're asked for money, and we should have more ambition in that. We need, Minister, to move to your ambition of 400 multi-denominational schools by 2030. The process is failing. The Church hold all the cards. And I'm stunned by the Taoiseach's remark last week that he doesn't believe in forced secularisation of the Irish education system, but he clearly then, therefore, believes in forced separation. Because in the Irish education system, we're obsessed with separating children. We're obsessed with separating them on the basis of religion, on the basis of gender, on the basis of income. So on income, let's stop subsidising these private schools. Let's stop it. If a school wants to be elitist, if a school wants to be exclusionary, fine, let them off. Let's stop backing them with state money. On gender, outside of the Arab world, we have more gender-segregated schools than anywhere else. And we need to challenge that. And I think within 10 years we can have a situation where we phase out gender segregation in primary schools, and in 15 years we can do it in secondary schools. Minister, we have a vision for education which is inclusive, which is something that lifts the experience of every child. Because we know in the Labour Party that poverty is a thief. It steals childhoods. It steals imagination, it steals ambition, and it humiliates. Poverty humiliates. If you are a family that doesn't have the access to funds in order to pay for a school book, or to pay for a uniform, or to pay the voluntary contribution, it is the humiliation that grinds you down. And it is education is the only thing that will ever, ever, ever set you free. And if people think that the investment in what we're talking about here is expensive, well, what's more expensive is a life without education. That's much more expensive than any of the measures that we are proposing. So, Minister, we're asking for more vision on school building, on school places, on school transport, on special education, on autism, on SNAs, on the Leaving Cert, on disadvantage, on multi-denominational schools, and producing an education system which is worthy of a country that pretends to call itself a republic.